Okay, beautiful. So it is now recording, and we need that. Anne's beaming in as she's driving so she can catch up. Other people couldn't make this time slot, so it's a great chance to be here and engage in the learning. So welcome to Live at Lunch. My name's Vivian Evans, and the first session is about deep work. And it's written by Cal Newport, and it's focused on the rules for a focused success in a distracted world. We're only having conversations just early this morning about being distracted, and I came across the book that was reviewed in a blog by Michael Hyatt. So I was following some of his blog posts, and he'd put his best books for the year, and this was one of them. And at that stage, at Christmas time, I was really concerned about my lack of ability to concentrate when I was trying to study. I'm studying life coaching at the moment, and also I was trying to do blog posts and get some business things established. And yeah, I was really concerned about the amount of or the lack of focus that I could do. So since getting the book, I then focused on, I'm going to make this a bigger screen and hopefully that's better. So I focused on myself, and I have noticed, I followed some of the rules, and I have noticed a significant improvement. And this is why I'm sort of here today sharing it, because I just think it's a great resource that I'd really like to share. So in deep work, it's a term that actually Cal Newport came up with, and I'm just wondering if we're missing a slide. So I'll tell you the actual definition. It's professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. So it's about really getting your brain working. That's what deep work is. Now, he actually wrote this book last year. It was released in 2016. This is a new concept, and it's his terminology. So he writes the book in two parts, and the idea behind deep work is the first section. Okay, so the ideas behind it. So he shines a light on how our current world is full of distraction. We're distracted by lots of things: email, social media. Lots of places have open office space, so that's a distraction in itself. And he talks about another term that is called shallow work, so the opposite. And that's what we tend to do a lot of. We've lost the ability to concentrate and focus, and he gives all sorts of examples. It is very male-centric in what he's writing and his examples, and I actually calculated that there was about 13% of his examples of people in business were women. But if you get over that, which I did, there's lots to draw on. So he talks about lots of examples of high business managers, people who've changed the world with big ideas. So there's even Carl Jung and, Einstein, like people in the past as well as current business, big business people that are writers, even comedians he has examples of, and his own personal self-reflections on different ways that people have applied what he's coined deep work strategies. And he gives the reader a sense of the importance for each of us. So no matter what field we're in, and it's about how valuable it is to ourselves and the world if we apply deep work, how rare deep work is, and thus if we actually apply deep work, we're going to be really valuable. So it's probably a good thing to get into that you can actually focus not only for your own business, but for people who you work for as well. So whether you're partnering, if you're your own, you've got your own business, or you're employed by someone, or you're partnering with other people, you're going to be far more valuable and rare that you can do deep work. And I'm hoping to change that. I think it'd be good. More people will have a better world with more deep workers. And it's also meaningful because it's going to deep workers actually come up with whole lots of new ideas, new products, and a whole lot more becomes of it. So are there 4 rules of deep work that I'm going to run through? And the first one is about it's working deeply. That's it, simply, is to work deeply. So I'm going to share some of the strategies with that, and that is to be deciding on your depth philosophy. And so with that, it's about whether it's monastic and whether it's bimodal, rhythmic, or journalistic. So let me explain that. Some of them, could be self-explanatory. These again are his definitions, his terminology. So monastic is where you hide yourself away and disconnect fairly completely from the distracted world. And the examples are researchers and some book writers. They actually cut themselves totally off from the world. And some don't even have an email address. And it's amazing that they can survive like that. So then we have bimodal, and that's where people do a bit of a mix of the monastic, so that bit of that deeper work, and with blocks of time. So they might do a whole week or a month, or, it could be 6 months. You have 6 months on, 6 months off. So you're doing certain things in a big project, and you separate yourself out while you're trying to do that really deep work. There's lots of variations on that, and they could be that actually go physically to a different location as well to do it. Or it could simply just be an email, a sign up on the door that you're away, and when in fact you're working inside. So there's those. There's rhythmic philosophy, and that's actually the one I've chosen because I don't want to totally disconnect myself, but I want to practice. So what I have is I have a regular routine, and that's for me. It's 2 hours a day, not every day, and I'll go into that more. But Cal Newport shares an example of the comedian Jerry Seinfeld and writing comedic lines, and he had a younger, upcoming comedian ask, what is your tip? And his tip was to regularly actually write comedy every day. And he had he had a calendar where he'd mark a big red X when he's doing the comedy. And from there, he would then create a chain, he said, because he would try and do a red cross every day, and he just didn't want to break the chain. So each day, Jerry Seinfeld had a routine of writing comedy, writing something, writing lines, and just going with it. So for me, I do 2 hours a day, well, almost. That's my aim. And so I've been doing it since January, and I try to focus on from 9 to 11. I decided that the start of my day would be when I would do it. And of course, there's sometimes I'm working on the road and that's not possible, and I've got appointments. But on the majority of the days, I probably do at least four days a week, and I'm noticing the difference with that. So that's a rhythmic one. You could choose your own rhythm. That's what this is all up to you. What's going to work. And journalistic philosophy, that's probably one of the trickiest ones, but it's actually something that he's coined from seeing how journalists operate. And they can get really focused. They can be out in the field, drawing on their stories, gathering lots of input. It happens, at random. There's no way of knowing when some disaster or something that they have to write. And I think of this more as like an international journalist, that someone that's out there overseas. They're in a war zone potentially or anywhere, and they're out there, and then they have to write their report. So they then step away, just random time, go in, and they have to write their report and send it off as soon as possible. So they become really focused. And he gave an example of a fellow who, even on a weekend away with people, would head up at 6 o'clock, just before dinner. He had half an hour. He would do deep work in that half hour and then join everyone for dinner. So this was really, I think this is a really well practiced out of all those. So out of those there, what are you thinking might work for you out of the monastic, bimodal, rhythmic and journalistic? You might share on the mic, Diane. What are you thinking for you, for Diana? And
I think the rhythmic as well. I don't think I can hide myself away for long periods of time or blocks of time, but I think a regular routine. I like what you do. 2 hours a day would be perfect.
yeah, yeah,
So if we do 2 hours in the morning, can I ask a question?
yes.
Can we do 2 hours, like an hour in the afternoon? So it doesn't have to be all in one block. Is that right?
No, that's it. You choose when it's going to be. So it could just be an hour that you do. And what you'll find is it'll gradually, you might want to build it up. So, and how's my screen working? You able to see okay what I'm showing, just to double check?
Yep,
Yep,
I am.
Yeah.
great. So, Anne, what about you? What are you thinking? I've got two Annes, so you can answer whichever.
I reckon for me,
Yes,
I'm very easily distracted.
right.
So, but I also couldn't just shut myself down for days and days.
Yeah.
That just wouldn't happen. But almost to do rhythmic monastic. So,
Okay.
so I suppose that's biomedial. I like doing
Yeah.
something but shutting everything else down while I do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that can still be the rhythmic
I'm
method.
distraction.
So let's move
Yeah.
on to the next slide I've got, and
Hmm.
and that's about it. The thing is about
Oh, okay.
ritualizing things. Yeah. So, and this is still in the rule number one of work deeply. And look, there's a whole lot. I can't give you the whole book. And in fact, every time I go back to the book, I just get more out of it. And it's been fantastic. I've needed to do a book review. I've done it on this. I've, done a blog post. I'm now doing this. I'll keep learning more and more as I, dip back in. So with all deep work, it takes practice. It's a bit like running a marathon. You need to practice it to see it, to see an improvement. And it's not going to happen straight away. And so at the start, look, you might even do it as a shorter time because it's going to be a challenge. And so Cal recommends four ritual, four things to sort of get into a ritual or a routine. And that is to work out where you'll work so that you've got that same place. You're not trying to set up something new and you're thinking in a new space, and that can be a distraction in itself. So yeah, so if you've got a good space that you can choose with, and it might change. I'm now deep working in two places. I've got my home office, and that's where I started, and I've now got an office in town where I need to be, being better connected for webinars such as these, and I'm finding now I can actually do deep work in both. So don't. It takes time to build it up, but getting that space, and if you're chopping and changing all the time, that may be worth thinking about trying to get a space where you'll do it. And you might try a few places and see where it goes, but it's about, so that's one of the first things is where, and then for how long. So the just keeping it for there's apparently a limit to our concentration span, and Cal goes into that in more detail. So sometimes it's about, if you do a break, so you might need a break, and it might be just a walk around the garden and come back. But if your break is checking emails, that's going to send you in a that's going to send you into your shallow work if you even look at it, if your phone comes on. So it's about trying to work out where you'll have a break, and it helps if you keep it a short and discrete length of time so that it's not an open-ended slog. So you're not going to go, I'm going to do the whole of today and on deep work. And when you're not used to it and it's not part of your practice, it's going to send you nuts. So just work on, initially a smaller chunk. and probably 2 hours that's a really quite fairly big. So you might start off with 1 hour to begin with and see. And if you're feeling good in that zone, we'll go longer. But then, if you say you try it for an hour, then you go, well, I've done that. And then you can get on with other things. So so work out, but actually determine how long so that it's not too big, but it's also, it's achievable. And then the one about how you will work is, will you be offline? Will you have your phone off? So I'll tell you what I do, and I mean, this is what you need to think about. For me, I like to write and edit using the computer. I do mind mapping and that on paper, but to really get into constructive and like writing assignments and stuff, I can't handwrite anymore. I've got to practice of that. So it's about typing, so I'm on the computer, but what I do is I'm off the internet. And I have my phone on aeroplane mode, and so that's how I choose it. And sometimes I've had assignments where I needed to research, and I've been able to turn off my and I need to go online for that. So some of it I've done where I've worked and I've tried to do assignments where work and deep work when I've started off where I don't need to be on the internet. And if I needed anything, I'd highlight that in red and know that when I've come out of my deep work, I can continue my work, but I can do it. I can come back to it and fix up those gaps where I think, right, I need to do a bit more research. Or I've turned off my email account, searched on the web, and the thing I hadn't turned off was Facebook, but I was managing, so there would be a way to do that. So I was still searching and I was focused on my search and research and I could manage it. But I think I needed that bit of practice first. And then how will you support your work? The fourth point there is, and you might need to experiment with this or you might already have some ideas. It's about setting up a ritual practice to get you in the zone. So it could be, you might do a grounding exercise. You might do that. You have a cuppa first. You have that with you. You have a clean desk. So that then that's part of your ritual. So that's supporting your work. You only just have out the thing that you're going to focus on. For me, I've been working on a bit of a lead-in routine of having a walk or a run in the morning, doing some meditation, and I've had my breakfast, and then I grab my cuppa, and then I come to my desk and I have it clean and I have it just the thing that I'm going to work on. So, and I've already worked it out. Sometimes it's that I'll come in with my list and I work out what's my priority. And I actually also too have a list of the deep work things that I'd like to work on. So different assignments it might be writing the blog post or whatever I want to do. And it's really probably in the 2 hours I only get through one thing, but it's constructive one thing. So has anyone got any questions or comments? There's a question here that Anne's written. How long is the book? The book itself is, I've got it next to me, sorry. It's a fairly big book. And just getting to, it's about 250 pages before you get to 263. So, but, you could use some of these ideas without reading it. He's also got videos too. There's been some interviews at Michael Hyatt. I haven't got those links, but I can bring them together if you're interested in those as well. Okay, so let's get on to the next thing. So the second rule. So the first rule is working deeply, and we've given you some tips with that. The next one is to embrace boredom. Now, this sounds really strange, doesn't it? But it's actually about when we, if you're sitting in a doctor's surgery, for me, the first thing I'd be doing while I'm waiting is I'd be utilising my time. I'd open up my phone and I'd check Facebook, and I'd, look at my email, see if anything's popped in, check the bank or do something. Now, he's actually saying don't do that. So he's saying that we're seeking stimulation, and that's sort of countering the deep work. And so if we're forever being stimulated, we're actually serving that addiction. So I've discovered that there's such a thing as addiction, to the internet and to just being distracted. So we need to let our brains be quiet. So that takes some practice. And it doesn't mean that you're off the phone all the time. It's about just choosing some spaces, like maybe at the dinner table or, where you don't have your phone, and so trying things like that. So he actually, instead of having breaks from distraction, he actually thinks we should just have some breaks from our focus. So blocking times, and even emails are seen as distractions. And they are. I mean, the reality is when you're in the workspace, you've got an email come in, and I've described myself as like a whirling dervish. I felt like a whirling dervish, where I've gone in with my task for the day when I was working in an open office space, and I would be distracted by my colleagues, by the emails, and you do everyone else's list but your own. So he's talking about actually setting time aside, where that's when you'll check your emails and go through them, and then you allocate where they go. The third rule, quit social media. I've not done that, and I don't plan to. To be honest, I enjoy the positives, lots of positives out of social media, but they serve a function. They're connecting with friends, making business, establishing networks. But what I have changed is how often I look at them and when. And that has made a difference because, sometimes you open up Facebook or something and you feel like you go down a rabbit hole. You don't know where you're going to end up, and then half an hour later you go, oh my goodness, I need to get back to it. So and then for me, there's a trap personally that when I post things, like this webinar event, you're keen to see, if you get any responses and answers, but you can work it in. I believe you can work it in. So I'm not so strong on the quit altogether, but it's about controlling when you do it. So you can, choose a time when you will look at that, and you'll still be able to give a good response time to any potential clients, I believe, with that. Okay, a quick poll now. Now, we'll see if this will work for you. If you've got a phone with you, if you can text this number. And so my question is, what is the single thing that interrupts your workflow or concentration the most? So is it some social media? Is it email? Is it calls? All sorts of things. It could be people. What interrupts your workflow the most? I want you to actually, on your phone, if you've got it, and I'm going to do it at the same time as well. So you open up your phone and you're going to put in the phone number that's up on the screen. And I think we can even work it so it could be 0427 541 357. So we're not Anne, who's driving. We don't want her to do that. And then, so that's in your phone number. And then what you're texting is in capitals, Vivian Evans 000. And ask any questions if you're getting stuck. So Vivian Evans 000. There's no gap, so it's like what we're seeing on the screen. And then just send that as a text message. Just okay, so the instructions are on the screen, Anne. I'm actually thinking it's not, I don't think it's working without the 6-1. I'm going to try that again. Ah, everything. So someone's worked it, yes. This is a cool little tool. It's a freebie if you got 25 participants. And so you worked it with just the 0427, Diane?
Yes.
It did work. Okay.
Yes.
All right, let me just see. I'll try. So we've got cool. Not sure that cool interrupts your workflow, but it is cool. It is a cool tool. So, and if we actually had, no, mine definitely isn't working. I'm just wondering if I've got something wrong. Aha, I can see I'm sending someone a random email because I've got the phone number wrong. That doesn't help. Great. Everything cool. House, people. Yep. You might have a second thing that distracts you. You can add that in.
You can only send one word at a time by the look of it.
Yeah, and that's actually best, just one word. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. So
I don't know if
people,
mine's coming
mess.
through. Sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead. Say it again. I didn't hear.
Oh, I'm putting them in, but they're not going through.
They're not coming through.
Doesn't
Okay.
look like on that list.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
I just said Facebook, noise, thoughts.
okay, Facebook noise and thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. So your own self. And that's what I was finding too, that it was me that was
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's
One
why
of
it
my
needs
biggest
that practice.
hindrance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh,
like
can I ask you?
yes.
Oh, where did you get the book? Which was it? A
I
standard
actually got it
bookshops
through
or?
like a mail order, Booktopia. But I'm sure
Okay.
if you look on most sort of bookstores, like online, or just do deep work and do a bit of a search, you should find
Yeah.
it. And I'll put that in. I've actually created um, a way of a forum that we might be able to continue to ask questions, and I can add more things to it, which is great. Okay, let's move on because that. And the fourth rule is drain the shallows. And so that's actually, I mentioned way earlier about shallow work. So that's tasks that can be done, potentially when multitasking. It's about emails, it could be scheduling meetings, responding to requests, phone calls. That they're all things that potentially don't need deep thought.
Right.
Okay, so that's that's shallow work. And in a connected world, it's obvious we need the shallow work. We've got to do that. They can't be avoided, but you can weigh up as to how important they are. So it could be scheduling time just to focus on them. So you'll have your deep work schedule, and you can have your shallows schedule. So when you're going to check your emails. So for me, like doing 9 till 11 with my deep work, and then I can come off and check my emails and make sure that I'm, people that are needing me up, or there's something urgent that I can follow up. And I actually put on the bottom of my email account, my signature, that I'm doing deep work in the time and I may not be accessible, so that clients or people that I work with will be partially aware if they read it that that's there. So yeah, so you might schedule. And the other thing too, he gives, look, there's a lot more than just these basic rules, and he delves into it. But one of the things he suggested was actually to reduce the amount of time you put into the shallow work. Now, an example of that is, say if you're trying to connect up with someone for a meeting and you send an email and say, oh, can we have a meeting? And then that relies on the other person answering back and going, yeah, sure. And then you go back with another email that says, oh, well, when will we have it? So you go back and forth and you've wasted both people's time on sort of, stuff that could have been done quicker. So he's suggesting that you could potentially look at rewording your email to say, I'd like a meeting. I've got this and this, these 3 time slots. How could you fit with any of them? Or, if not, can you suggest a time and I'll see what I can do. So all of a sudden you've got straight back, yeah, I can do this day and this time because you've already suggested one and they've worked around with you. And so immediately, instead of about 5 or 3 or 4 emails, you've nailed it in 2 when you just come back to it. So that's a really interesting another way. So those four rules that we have is do deep work, embrace boredom, quit social media, depending on how extreme you want to go, and then drain the shallows. Now, they all take a bit of work and time, and I think this is where it's, handy maybe to look at the book yourself and do, and sort of explore it a bit more. So the next, sorry, just trying to move things. So that's it. I was wanting it to be sort of short and sweet, half an hour with, fitting in with people's lunch times. I have got other ones coming up. Tips for effectively engaging in live webinars is next week. Effective and affordable tools for online meetings and creating your own short and sharp videos using free online tools. But what I would really like to share, and I've updated and missed, I want to show you some resources. On my website, vivianevans.com.au, I've actually got a blog, and in the blog there's more about deep work there. But what I'd love to invite you to is a forum. Now, I've only just set this up. It's been a new feature on the website that I work with that's offered it, and I've got a working deeply forum that I've set up. So that I'd love to invite you into that, and you can ask questions. I've already posted some stuff. You will need to join, and you can join through Facebook or set it up. You just follow the links as you come here. And so there's a real mix of things. I posted and got a really interesting post about deep listening, Dadiri, which a friend of mine, Alex Hayes, shared, and that's actually about Indigenous people, the way they focus on listening to their elders and doing deep listening. And I think this ties in really nicely with the deep work. And so I've got a bit more about we can chat about the monastic. I love this smiling little monk. So there's a potential that you could create your own post once you've joined, and it's a bit like Facebook, but it's in a space that's there. So I'm getting you engaged in social media. That's interesting, isn't it? With it, but I think it's worth sharing, and I can put in here the link. And are there any other questions that you would like that I might be able to add into that? Working deeply. So I'm certainly going to add the book potential where you can buy it. And I will also be putting the recording here as well. So under live events on my website, I've got recordings and podcasts. So I've got past recordings, and I will, once we finish the session, I'll be able to add add the recording up here. So, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me on this first Live at Lunch. I'm delighted to have 3 very special people here to join me. I'm hoping that I've inspired you to consider deep work, and I'm not here to sell the book as such. I'm not making any money out of it. I think it's just really, it's made a difference for me, and I just think if I can share that, that's great. Fantastic.
Thank you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure. And if anyone's got some time, I've got a little bit of a stretch exercise. Diana, you might recognise this. And so if you want to have a bit of a stretch before you step back into what you need to do for your day, but by all means, you're welcome to step away if you need to. But I'm going to lead you through this stretch. I think, and this is part of what I'm going to be doing next week too, is doing a bit of what's called desk-a-cise. A friend of mine coined that when I was sharing it, and I'll be sharing some desk-a-sizes too with that session that you can put up. But I'm actually giving tips on how to really engage well, and when you're in live webinars. So here we go with the backward wrist stretch, and the idea of this is to maintain flexibility of the muscles in your forearms and your wrist and hands. I want to really make certain first that before you even do that you can, if you've got sore wrists, don't do anything, don't push beyond your limit. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, don't do that. You might, could do another little stretch of your own. So we're just going to place, like the picture at the bottom of the gentleman with his hands up, we're going to put our palms together at neck height. So it's like in a prayer position almost. And then we're going to move your hands downwards while maintaining that full contact with both palms. And I certainly feel that in my wrists at the bottom and even at the top, I think. And so we'll hold that for 10 seconds. And then release. I find it really helpful for me to give my hands a shake. So that's up to you if you want to do that. And then we'll come with our hands together again. Move it down. Release again. And you could do this at any time. It's really good to keep your hands and wrists flexible. We're doing lots of writing and typing. So again, coming down with your hands together. And I'm even finding when I do that I'm sitting taller, so I can feel it in the small of my back as well. Shows maybe I've been slouching. So that's good. Okay, and then release. So terrific. So thank you so much for joining me today. Wishing you all a brilliant afternoon, and I might see you sometime at another Live at Lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vivian.
Cheers. Great.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.